Good morning, witches. It's Stragabella, and I am back from my last minute short weekend vacation. Thursday, my family and I were gonna plan to go away for a day. It was supposed to be just Friday into Saturday, because we had plans Thursday evening and we had plans on Sunday, but because of the place that we went, it's such a popular vacation spot that the minimum stay was 3 nights, and everything everywhere we tried was booked. And so we found one place that would allow us a 3-night stay, and they only had one room available. So we just went for it, and the kids were pretty surprised because we just basically told them, pack your stuff, we're leaving. And within an hour, we had all our stuff packed and we're on our way. So we went up to Wells, Maine, which is where we went the last time me and my husband and my youngest 2 went. But this time we brought 3 more of our kids. We brought my older 2 and one of my husband's from his first marriage. So I had my 4 kids and a stepson, and it was awesome. So I thought I would show you some of the stuff that I got. We were right on the ocean, so we got to watch fireworks. We climbed out onto a jetty, which was a little bit dangerous because it was really dark and kind of slippery, but we all did it. And we had a beautiful, beautiful view of the fireworks. So these are the books that I got on the trip. I got an alternative guide to Maine, and the reason I got this book is because it's not just like a tourist guide. It has like a whole section about like haunted places that you can go in Maine, and tells about the ghosts and things like that. There's a lot of haunted lighthouses, haunted houses, and places where people fell off cliffs and stuff like that. So I got that. I think all these books were about $1. They might have been 50 cents, depending. This one was $2. So this one I really like. I've been reading this so far. I started reading it while we were still there. Solar Reunion, Journey to the Beloved. It doesn't want to focus. Remembering the love of the self, soulmates, and the twin soul. And this is really interesting because it starts from from the Godhead, and it has Bible reference, and it's very interesting because it explains in such a way that it takes the subject that it's talking about, and then it breaks it down so that you can see how each different religious view kind of basically believes almost the same thing and uses just different words to describe it. So it really helps you to see how all spirituality kind of is looking for the same thing, trying to describe the same things about life. So I really liked this. I haven't finished it yet, but so far it's really awesome. This book I got just out of curiosity to read it. This is written by Montague Summers, and this is actually a Catholic priest. This was written a long time ago. It's not a book that's going to describe witchcraft in a positive light. This is basically a priest defending what was done, like defending what was done in Salem, and all the senseless, horrible murders of witches. This is his opinion, and I read some little sections of it, and it basically is saying how, now in the modern times, I'm not sure exactly what year this was written. I really couldn't figure it out because it said when this was printed, but I'm not sure when the actual, this book was actually written. But he was saying how, like, a lot of more modern people are saying that the extra nipples and the things that they found were probably just deformities or imperfections on the people, and sometimes when they went to find them later on, they weren't even there. And this guy is saying that there is a lot more truth to what was in the original transcripts and facts than people want to believe. And so he's basically defending it. I don't know what happens at the end, if he goes on his own witch hunt or whatever, but I'm sure it's not going to be anything that's going to portray witchcraft in a positive light. But I am curious to see what was said, and also to see any new information about Salem witch trials and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff in here about portions of Massachusetts that I didn't realize were part of the witch trials, like Suffolk and Essex, and apparently it went on all over the place, but only the places where it was really famous gets into the books. So that will be an interesting read. And this one is New Passages, Mapping Your Life Across Time. This seems really interesting because it talks about how with all of the awakening and consciousness and the knowledge and the health and everything that we have in our current day and age, it talks about how we don't grow up quite the same, and in the same typical, you go through teenage years, you go through puberty and everything, and then you're married, have kids, and you die. Because in the old days, the lifespan was your adulthood was just 21 to 65, and that was it. But this book is mapping it into more groups. You have your 18 to 30 years old. Most people aren't even married then. And then you finally really an adult between 30 and 45. And then you go into all these other, the flaming 50s, the serene 60s, and it even goes all the way to the 90s, because it says how if a woman reaches the age of 50 and she has had no episodes of cancer, that the chances of living into the 90s are actually very good. So it talks about all these different stages that we go through during these particular times, like the little death of first adulthood, the early midlife crisis, male menopause, pits to peak. So this seems like a really good read. My battery is low, so I will do the remainder of my haul. I have some cool stuff to show you guys downstairs that I bought. I bought some gargoyles and an hourglass, or no, what do you call that? Yeah, an hourglass. And but my phone is gonna die, so I better shut it off and charge it. So I had an awesome trip, and I will talk to you guys in a little bit. Blessed be.